there are some characters that go down on a planet. There are some characters. Let me just.
Greetings, creatures.
I'm Rachelle.
I'm Kalie.
And I'm Blake.
And we are
Paranoia Percentage.
We're just three girls who are a little anxious about our world.
And if you don't know what we do here,
We're fascinated by cryptids, machination theories, and pretty much everything weird.
we just recorded, and I will put up, most likely right before I put up this one, part 1 of simulation theory, where I went over what simulation theory is, what the simulation argument is, and why it is likely a 50-50 chance that we're in a simulation. But now I'm going to talk about some things that lead me to think that it's a larger than 50% chance that we're in a simulation, things that make more sense to me if we're in a simulated reality than if we're in base reality. So that's what we're going to talk about today. There's one thing in here that I think honestly could be its very own episode, so I'm going to try to blaze past it pretty quick. So the first thing that would make more sense to me if we're not in base reality are things that could be considered glitches. So like,
Which you send us examples of all the time.
Yeah, you frequently text. We have a group chat, the three of us are in, and Kalie will frequently text a picture of something and be like, "It's the simulation."
well, that's partly a joke, but also partly not a joke.
Yeah.
Partly not.
It's like almost a joke.
This glitched.
Like, haha, kidding, not really kidding, this is scary. But what I mean by this are like possible hallucinations or coincidences that seem like they can't be coincidences, or things that don't feel like they should happen in reality. Maybe it seems like it wouldn't be possible in physics, but I'm also not a physicist, so I don't know. But that might explain.
Can you give us some examples?
Okay. So like things flying, which could be paranormal stuff, but could paranormal stuff just be glitches?
Wait, what things flying? Like birds?
No.
I know that sounded like I was being a smart aleck, but I'm not.
No.
Things that shouldn't fly.
Like things
Like if
that,
this little glass just like started flying.
not like flying.
Okay,
but
like what we were talking about with the during the live stream, we were telling the story about my grandpa and the picture frame flying off of the wall. I think that's what she means.
Yeah, like poltergeist activity type of stuff.
Okay. Because I thought you just meant birds. And I was like, they have wings that create momentum, which allow them to rise.
Well, you know that birds went extinct in the Reagan administration, and now they're spies.
Stop. The birds work for the bourgeoisie. Stop.
What I mean by things flying is like paranormal or poltergeist activity, things that we chalk up to paranormal stuff.
Okay.
Might just be glitches in the matrix or whatever.
So sorry. I know that sounded like such a smart aleck thing to say, but I really wasn't reading it like that.
Okay.
Birds.
What if it's also deja vu? So take, for example, let's say something happens to you that you go, I swear I know that I've lived this.
That
Every
happens to me a
detail.
lot.
Exactly. And there could be, obviously there are so many explanations for that. It could literally just be misfires in our own brain.
Some people also say that it could be past lives.
It could be past lives, it could be alternate dimensions. But what if something happened in the simulation that maybe we weren't supposed to see, or maybe needed to be fixed, that they rewound it and then replayed it? Or what if that is literally a glitch? Something happened with, you know how these ancestor simulations, they would have to affect the neurosynaptic thoughts. What if the neurons in the brain misfired based off of the glitch, and that causes deja vu? What if that's what causes hallucinations? Who knows? But I also kind of question this idea that the glitches would be observable to us, because if a civilization was advanced enough to create this ancestor simulation that we may or may not be in, wouldn't they also be advanced enough to make sure that glitches don't happen? And in that case, maybe if there are observable glitches, they want us to see it for some reason. Maybe they want us to know that we're in a simulation, but at the same time, when they just tell us, that one I'm not hell-bent on, just because I can't quite reason around it, but at the same time, who knows? But it would make more sense to me, I suppose, some of these things that happen, coincidences that just seem like they can't be coincidences. Like you'll be thinking something and then it'll show up 10 times, or you'll be talking about something and then you see a commercial about it. And in that case, maybe it's not the simulation, maybe it's just that we are being aggressively advertised to.
Well, like you said, the other day we watched one of the Lord of the Rings movies, and then you saw what you said, like no less than 4 Lord of the Rings memes popped up on your Facebook feed.
What always happens to me is like I'll be like thinking of a song and like just kind of like bopping along to it in my head, and then it'll play on the radio like as I get in the car.
To me too.
Right. But yeah, so sometimes I'll send you guys things that it's just like, oh my god, the simulation, because for me it mostly happens in coincidences where it's just kind of like it blows my mind that something could happen, when like in my brain I'm like, what are the chances? They're just astronomical, but they happen anyways, and to me that's the simulation. But of course I'm like halfway joking. Another thing that I think makes more sense in a simulated reality, or at least can be explained in a simulated reality, is the speed of light and the theory of relativity. So the speed of light, there is, as we know, the speed of light is as fast as we know anything can go, as far as we're aware, that nothing can go faster than the speed of light. And in which case, is it plausible that whoever programmed this simulation put that limiter on there so that it doesn't take more than the energy that it has to make something happen? If you think of like a program or a piece of software in a computer that we have today, if it's too much information or it goes too fast, it gets glitchy, it like runs out of power, and it can't like...
And it shuts the computer down.
Well, it can shut the computer down, it can make it freeze, it can just like totally disrupt the system.
Yeah.
So maybe there is that limiter there so that we can't break the system.
I had cheese in my hair.
How?
I don't know. My hair isn't that long. Sorry, continue.
But maybe they put that there as a limiter so that we can't break the
I
system.
put the cheese in her hair as a limiter.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's one of the glitches.
Or maybe if they did set it up so that the AI creates upon itself, it creates itself and programs itself, just like we were talking about the Minecraft, whatever is underneath the ground doesn't exist until you have to perceive it. Maybe if we went faster than the speed of light, or if anything went faster than the speed of light, it would reach the next location before it can be programmed. And in which case, again, that limiter has to be there. So for me, that might explain why the speed of light has to be as quick as anything can go in this universe. With this limitation and kind of thinking of the computer software, that there's too much information, so therefore it has to slow the time down in order to conserve energy to make it work. So in a software program, for example, it might go glitchy, it might go slow. You have too many Sims doing tasks at the same time, they're going to be kind of slow and glitchy, at least in Sims Free Play. I don't know about yours. I don't know if you have like 10 Sims doing things.
Well, you can only have 8 Sims in a household at once.
Oh, okay.
So you could never have more than that. However, I never have that many Sims in a household because that would just be chaos to me. I typically will play with 1 Sim at a time.
In Sims Free Play, you can have like 10 of them cooking at once, and after a while, they've got way too many plates stacked up if I don't have them clean it up, and it's just too much information all at once on the screen, and the program can't handle it, so everything slows way down because it's too much energy that it takes. So a similar thing kind of happens when you're looking at the universe attaining a really, really high velocity called time dilation. So there's gravitational time dilation and then there's velocity time dilation. Gravitational time dilation, which I don't think this really pertains, but basically to help explain it, is in the movie Interstellar, there are some characters that go down on a planet. there are some characters. Let me just.
Mother Earth feeling real good right now.
So in the movie Interstellar, there are some characters that. I need to get through this.
Such a child, I'm sorry.
Hold on a second. We'll be
I
okay.
don't know how
I'm
else
fine.
to say it.
Land on a planet?
They
Descend onto a planet?
Descend onto a planet.
That
There you
still
go.
sounds dirty to me.
Not as dirty.
Descend onto a planet is
Okay.
not go down on a planet. We are children, okay?
We are children.
Bum-ba-dum-bum-bum-bum-bum.
Anyways, okay. In the movie Interstellar, to kind of help picture gravitational potential time dilation, they have some astronauts, some characters that descend onto this other planet that's way out into space. I don't know what planet. You good?
I'm fine.
Okay.
Blake.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go
And
ahead.
there's one character that stays up in the spaceship that is really far away from the planet.
Yeah.
In the time that they are down on the planet, which they're only there for, in their time, a couple of hours, they go back up to the spaceship, and the man in the spaceship has aged decades. In that case, it's gravitational potential time dilation, where if you are closer to the large mass, time moves differently than if you were further away from the large mass, so time slows down.
Question.
Yeah.
How did he have enough food to consume on the...
They left knowing that it would be many, many years. They left planet Earth knowing that they would all be gone basically for a very long time.
Was dude single with no kids?
The dude that was left up in the spaceship, I don't think it says. The main character, Matthew McConaughey, did have kids, and unfortunately, when he came back to Earth, he was still a very young man in his early 30s, and his daughter was on her deathbed as a very old woman.
Oof.
Yeah, it's a very sad movie.
Also, according to Lucifer, the TV show,
You know him?
not Satan, in hell, it's like it can last for like 30, 40 years. Like there was a guy who died in the show, and he was only dead for like 30 seconds, but in hell it was like decades that he was down there. 30 seconds on Earth was apparently like 30, 40 years in hell.
Right, and that's kind of like time dilation, but that may fall more into velocity time dilation, because we don't know anything, obviously, because we've never been, and this is a fictional show, of what hell means, whether it's on some kind of very large mass or if it's moving very quickly. So, or actually it would have to be moving very slowly, because velocity time dilation is what I'm talking about when I'm referring to the idea of too much is happening for, like The Sims, for example, and therefore the program has to slow down in order to compensate, in order to conserve the energy and make the program run. Time dilation, velocity time dilation, means that the faster the relative velocity, the greater time dilation. So if someone theoretically were to travel impossibly fast, which it's like impossible, but they're to travel impossibly fast in a car, and they felt like they were in the car for what felt to them like a year, then everyone outside of the car could have felt like it was like 10 years, depending on how fast they went.
Yeah.
So technically speaking, no, it is to such a minute degree. If you travel in a car right now, like 16 miles an hour, technically speaking, you could kind of traveled in time. You think it's only been, for you it feels like an hour. To somebody else it feels like an hour and 0.0000001 second. You know, it's such a minute thing because of the low speeds. But if you were to travel like the speed of light in a car, and somebody outside of the car wasn't traveling that fast, to them they've aged years, and for you, you haven't aged at all. So I feel like if that's the case, it would make sense if we were in a simulation, because it could just be software trying to conserve the energy to run. And that's why it puts that limiter in there. And that's why there's issues when objects move incredibly fast. It's just too much information. It takes too much energy to make it run properly. It has to slow down time. The next thing that I feel like would make more sense if we were in a simulated reality rather than an organic one is the fact that there's something called the golden ratio or the Fibonacci sequence. It is so crazy.
A lot of people say that the most attractive people in the world have faces that resemble the Fibonacci sequence.
Yes, I mean, it is found in nature, it is found in our universe, it's found in physics, it is even in our DNA.
Apparently, Tool wrote a song that ended up having the Fibonacci sequence in it, but they didn't do it on purpose. That's what AJ says.
The simulation.
I don't know.
Dope.
That is so cool.
Because he told me they had a song that had Fibonacci sequence, and I was like, oh, that's cool that they wrote a song. He's like, no, they didn't do it on purpose.
Isn't that a God thing too, though? Don't a lot of people say that, like, God put
Yeah,
it?
some people believe that the Fibonacci sequence might indicate that there has to be a higher intelligence, and in which case, maybe it's God or maybe it's whoever simulated us.
I don't really understand what Fibonacci sequence is.
Yeah, I want to.
Science and math are not my strong suits.
The
Sorry.
Fibonacci sequence is a series of numbers in which each number is the sum of the two preceding numbers. So A plus B equals C, B plus C equals D, C plus D equals E, and so on. And the golden ratio is the ratio between those numbers, which is 1.618034, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's like really long.
Very long decimal.
My
Yeah.
brain just broke.
I'm going to put up this picture on the screen here, but essentially if you were to draw it, it is, 2 plus 3 equals 5, 3 plus 5 equals 8, 5 plus 8 equals 13, etc. And it keeps getting bigger.
Yeah.
Okay.
And is basically just like a big seashell looking thing.
If you were to draw it out, that's what it looks like, is a big spiral.
Okay.
I mean,
I don't think
this
that was
is just to
something
help
that I learned when I was in school.
I mean,
I don't think a lot of people did, actually.
which is kind of crazy because it is everywhere. It's in our DNA, it's in our skin cells, it's even in our fingerprints. It's really, really cool. You can visualize it, and also, even if it isn't manifested as a visualization like this, like the spiral, it's still, the numbers are still there, the ratio is still there, which is very, very cool.
What if you just met someone one day that had square fingerprints?
That'd be very interesting.
Like perfect, like square, like fingerprints.
I think you'd have to assume that person was a robot.
That would be so cool. I would be like, what factory did you come from?
I feel like they're most definitely AI created in a lab.
I would be like, do you want to try to have babies and see if we have robot babies?
Or they're
Cyborg babies!
the baby's fingerprints come out as triangles.
What?
Baby's fingerprints come out as triangles.
Oh, that would be dope. Or ovals.
Well, yours are kind of ovals.
Yeah, it's not perfect circles.
Mine's an oval.
Oh,
Mine's
mine's oval.
kind of like, it's like a line and then it goes.
Oh, see, mine's kind of like it spirals around itself.
Nah, mine's like a line and then it goes into a spiral.
Interesting.
Yeah. So maybe I'm the robot. Machination theory. Blake is a robot.
redheads that are aliens. It's Blake.
It's just me. Specifically me.
But you're
I'm not a
also,
redhead.
you're also the Jersey Devil.
And apparently a homewrecker for Keanu Reeves.
and
and and whatever else we've said I am on this podcast.
Probably a lot of things.
the golden ratio is essentially a mathematical code that's found in everything. So technically speaking, the universe is made out of mathematical codes. And in which case, that makes more sense to me if we're not in base reality. Of course, who knows? That could be the higher being of some sort that did that. Maybe it's just that's what math is. I don't know. But it just makes more sense to me. And the last thing I wanted to talk about, which I'm just gonna like glaze over this super quick because I this is a lot, and I want to do like an actual short episode about this if I want to go into super detail. But there's something called the double slit experiment, which if you want to know right now, type that in, double slit experiment. It is a central mystery of quantum mechanics. It is so crazy. Basically, these particles act totally differently when there is a consciousness that observes them than when there's not a consciousness that observes them. And there's no answer. We have no idea why that is. Scientists have no idea why that is.
Yeah.
After doing the double slit experiment, which is one of the reasons why it's such a central mystery of quantum mechanics, is that it defies everything that we know about these particles. It defies it. So we thought we knew about them, but now we're starting to see, oh my God, we have no idea because we cannot answer this. There's nothing in physics that makes it possible. Again, I'm not going to read through this whole thing because I think that this deserves a short episode on its own because it is so interesting and so unexplainable. But just look it up. The double slit experiment is another reason why I believe we are in a simulation.
Well, you got me. By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. Percentages?
You go ahead.
Okay, I'll give you this. You doubled my percentage.
Okay.
I was
I'll
at
take
5
that.
and now I'm at 10.
You doubled it. That's really good.
Okay.
That's probably not entirely accurate. I don't know. Let me think for a second. If afterlife is like level 2 of the simulation, then I will say 45.
Nice. Okay.
Can you live with that?
I'm very happy
Okay.
with that. You're not going to give me 45.
No.
That's why she loves me more than you.
Oof. Let's see here.
I love you both equally.
I love you, first of all. I am very impressed with the research that you have conducted and with all of the information that you have compiled so eloquently.
Thank you.
However, I'm still real low percentage-wise, mostly because okay, let's break this into two. Kind of like you. Logically, I'm going to say 25-75. Only because these are scientific findings from a few scientists, whereas like there are millions of other opinions in the world. And so like it's not proven. So like I'm a skeptic about this kind of stuff. But emotionally, I'm going to go up a little bit. I'm going to give you 2%.
Okay.
Emotionally, I cannot cope if it's not real. And like by not real, I mean like you've pointed out,
Not based reality.
not base reality, not organic, not truly mattering.
I think that's the difference between us is you can't cope if it's not based reality. I can cope with it not being based reality as long as there is an afterlife.
Logically, I'm at 50-50, mostly because I feel very strongly that Nick Bostrom, Neil deGrasse Tyson, and Elon Musk are really reputable sources, and they aren't really the only sources. They're just the only ones that I got my information from. They're maybe the biggest names in the theory.
Definitely.
There are a lot of scientists that agree with them, some of them that have written their own stuff that supports the simulation theory or simulation hypothesis, but these are just the biggest names in it. So these are the people that I got it from, mostly because our listeners probably know who these three are, or at least a couple of them.
Are there any that you found that disagreed entirely with the theory?
I have not seen any that disagree entirely with it. I have seen some that just go, there's no proving it right now.
Yeah.
So we cannot operate under the assumption that we are. The way that you're thinking about it too is that I think a lot of people would think the way you're thinking of it. And so it is safer to assume that we're not in a simulation right now since we have no idea.
Yeah.
So I have not found any that are like, no, it's absolutely not, and this is why.
Because I am not currently a nihilist, and I would like to not be.
I think a lot of people would think that way.
Yeah.
But for me, myself, so much more makes sense to me if we were in a simulation, and it makes my personal reality much more tangible to me. It makes me feel like I have more purpose. It makes my version of God make more sense to me. It's much more reachable for me and understandable to me. Well, I would love to know you guys' thoughts. As I said in the part 1 of this episode, I'm not a quantum theorist, so I might have gotten some of this wrong or misquoted or anything like that. So if you know Nick Bostrom's work in particular, because he's kind of the spearhead of this theory, please just comment and let us know, or email us or whatever. And if it's way off, I would love to take that into account and make another one with better information.
I really thought you were going to leave it at, if you know Nick Bostrom.
No.
And I was like,
if you are Nick Bostrom and you're watching this.
Unless you go to Oxford University, you probably don't really know him personally, but he does have some really, really great articles and some really interesting work on this. I haven't read through all of it because it's really dense. But yeah, I also want to know your theories. I want to know if I've swayed you at all. Please say
She
yes.
would be thrilled if
I would
she
be
swayed
thrilled if I
anybody.
swayed you at all.
yeah, if you watched part 1 and then you watched part 2 and your percentage, if you'll say, changed in between part 1 and part 2, please let her know specifically so that you can boost her ego a little bit.
Yeah.
I very much appreciate that.
I worked really hard in this one.
And
Especially
it means
after
that
I
she
just crushed it.
And it means that she might take the lead onto other things that she feels very strongly about and has wanted to report on.
She probably
I'll
still will.
probably
She's
do that
very strong-willed.
anyways. Yeah. if I want to talk about something, I'll just tell you guys, like, guys,
I'm talking about this
we need
today.
to talk about this.
We all love and respect each other.
Yeah.
And you.
And you. We love and respect you too.
I don't know you.
In case you haven't gotten validation today, I love you. I respect you. Drink some water. Go eat something.
Take
Be
your
kind
meds.
to each other. Take your meds.
I'm Kalie.
I'm Rachelle.
And I'm Blake.
And we were
Paranoia Percentage.
Bye.
Dun, 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 dun.
You can find us on Twitter at Paranoia Percent, Tumblr as PDubs Podcast, and Facebook and Instagram as Paranoia Percentage.